organizations, basically the organizations that are developing new applications nowadays are usually using the cloud-based services, but the existing applications or the systems that are already working in the environment are also using the cloud-based services and are trying to migrate to the cloud-based services. The federal government recently made cloud adoption a central tenet of its IT modernization strategy. Every organization or the environment which is going to connect with them will connect with them only with the help of cloud-based services, and it's a central point of mediation for all the people. An organization that adopts cloud technologies and or chooses cloud service providers, the CSP are the cloud service providers, and the services or applications without becoming fully informed of the risks involved exposes itself to a myriad of commercial, financial, technical, legal, and compliance risks. There are multiple kind of risks. Definitely, we know the cloud-based technologies are using everything that is based on online resources. So when any technology is working on online things, like we are connecting it with internet, definitely it has the possible theft of like the risk of being theft of the personal information or misleading or misguided information or any other risk that could affect their communication. So every risk is expected here. So the CSPs or the cloud service providers, most probably they are trying to grab the new clients and they are not informing them about the possible risks that could occur. So we will discuss some of the most common, or you can say that the most important risks of the cloud-based technologies. Basically, the cloud environment experience at a high level the same threat as traditional data center environments. The threat picture is the same. That is, cloud computing runs software. Software has vulnerabilities, and adversaries try to exploit those vulnerabilities. However, unlike information technology systems in a traditional data center, in cloud computing, responsibility for migrating the risks that result from these software vulnerabilities is shared between the CSP and the cloud consumer. So, this is the framework, or you can say that the structure of the system, how it works. Whenever you are using a software, there are maximum chances of the vulnerabilities to arise, and you need to exploit the vulnerabilities in order to save your data. When we are talking about the IT based systems, they are using the cloud computing, and the risk of the software vulnerabilities is for both the service provider and the cloud consumer who is using the cloud services actually. Both will suffer from the risk of the cloud based computing. As a result, consumers must understand the division of responsibilities and trust that the CSP meet their responsibilities. In order to understand the trust level of the CSP and his responsibility, you need to first make sure that this person is authentic and is reliable. If he is reliable, then you can trust their services. Otherwise, you need to look for the better chances, because there are a lot of people who are providing the cloud-based services, but all are not the authentic people. So you need to make sure that every service is provided by an authentic person. Based on our literature searches and analysis effort, the following list of cloud unique uh, and the shared cloud or on-premise vulnerabilities and threats were identified. We are going to discuss the risks that are basically for the personal cloud systems and for the cloud services that are provided on-premise. And all the vulnerabilities and threats that we are going to share here are from the different perspectives and could arise in different ways. So the first risk is the consumers have reduced visibility and control. This risk is related to the consumers who are using the services of the cloud. When transitioning assets or operations to the cloud, whenever you are going to put your data to the cloud, organizations lose some visibility and control over those assets or operations. Why? Because everything is controlled by the cloud service provider. Now you don't need to worry about it. And in the same way, when you don't need to worry about it, you have no visibility of your data. Like what is happening to your data, you don't know. When using external cloud services, responsibility for some of the policies and infrastructures move to the CSP. The actual shift of responsibility depend on the cloud service model used, leading to a shift of it for agencies in relation to security monitoring and logging. So it depends upon the model that you have chosen for your services or for your requirements. Organizations need to perform monitoring and analysis of information about application services, data, and users without using network-based monitoring and logging, which is available for on-premises IT. So it depends upon the model or the services that you have choose. Whatever the services you will choose, you will get to know about the things in a favorable way as per the package that you have selected. The next risk is on-demand self-service simplifies unauthorized use. CSPs make it very easy to provision new services. The on-demand self-service provisioning feature of the cloud enable an organization's personnel to provision additional services from the agency's CSP without IT consent. The practice of using software in an organization that is not supported by the organization's IT department is commonly referred to as shadow IT. It is not the part of the organization, but they are using it on the basis of the demand. Like they need to work on the software, that's why they are getting it from an agency, and a CSP provider is going to give them the software and they are going to use it as per the needs of the organization. Due to the lower cost and ease of implementing platform as a service and software as a service product, the probability of unauthorized use of cloud services increases. Because now we don't know, most commonly people try to use the softwares that are free, and some people definitely who are going to buy the software, they may sell the software with the credentials to the other people in order to give them the idea of how to use that service. So this way, although we know this will reduce the cost for the people, however, services provisioned or used without IT's knowledge present risk to an organization. The use of unauthorized cloud services could result in an increase in malware infection or data exfiltration since the organization is unable to protect resources it doesn't know about. The use of unauthorized cloud services also decreases an organization's visibility and control of its network and data. Internet accessible management APIs can be compromised. Basically, these APIs are used for accessing the services and monitoring the assets and the data of your organization. So companies or the organizations are using this for the sake of the understanding of how to manage their resources and how well these resources are managed. So, whenever these APIs are compromised, it means that as these APIs are already available online, we are getting them from internet. So these are having the more potential to become exploited. Threat actors look for vulnerabilities in management APIs. If discovered, these vulnerabilities can be turned into successful attacks. And organization cloud assets can be compromised. Whenever the API will be compromised, definitely your data will be compromised. From there, attackers can use organization assets to perpetrate further attacks against other CSP customers. So, what they can do is they can exploit the data of other users or other customers of the CSP as well, because your asset will give them the range of the CSP's overall location and they can get the data of other consumers as well. Next one is the separation among multiple tenants fail. Exploitation of system and software vulnerabilities within a CSP's infrastructure, platform, or application that support multiple tenancy can lead to a failure to maintain separation among tenants. This failure can be caused by an attacker to gain access from one organization's resources to another user or organization's assets or data. It depends upon the data, then they can easily access it and ultimately they can misuse that. Multi-tenancy increases the attack surface, leading to an increased chance of data leakage if the separation control fails. It means if the separation control is failed, you need to suffer on the data of all the tenants or multiple tenants. Like if the separation between the organization and the users is not maintained, then definitely the attacker can first he will attack one user and after that he can attack the whole organization's data because of the lack of separation controls. This attack can be accomplished by exploiting vulnerabilities in the CSP's application, hypervisor, or hardware, subverting logical isolation controls or attacks on the CSP's management API. To date, there has not been a documented security failure for a CSP's software as a service platform that resulted in an external attacker gaining access to teenage data. So this is the rare case. This doesn't happen mostly, but it could happen where their data is physically stored in the cloud. As we have discussed this point in the first risk that we have discussed, the visibility of the data to consumer is become very less, and definitely it reduces the ability to verify the secure deletion of their data. This risk is concerning because the data is spread over a number of different storage devices within a CSP's infrastructure in a multiple or multi-tenancy environment. When you are working in a multi-tenancy environment, there are multiple tenants. The data is stored at multiple storage devices. So what's happening here is if you are going to delete some data, the deletion is depending upon the CSP. You are not like easily viewing the data because the visibility of your data or your resources is reduced here. That's the reason you cannot see your data deletion. In addition, deletion procedures may differ from provider to provider. It depends upon the service provider who is going to provide you the services. Organizations may not be able to verify that their data was securely deleted, and then that remnants of the data are not available to attackers. So there shouldn't be anything remaining, like everything should be deleted properly, and it shouldn't get like backed up after the attacker whenever the attacker is trying to attack it. And this threat increases as an agency uses more CSP services. So if the user is having more services from the agency, then definitely they need to worry about this data deletion risk. Then we have the risk of credentials that are given to you are stolen. If an attacker gains access to a user's cloud credentials through provisioning as well as target the organization's assets, the attacker could leverage cloud computing resources to target the organization's administrative users, other organizations using the same CSP. If the administrator credentials are attacked, then definitely the attacker can access the whole agency's data, and it consisting of the data of all the consumers who are going to use the services from that CSP. Access to the CSP network system and application depending on the service of the CSP's infrastructure, whereas the consumer administrator access only to the organization's cloud implementations. In essence, the CSP administrator has administration rights over more than one customer and support multiple services. This is the thing that I was talking about. When the administration rights are attacked, then the data of more than one customers are on the risk of being stolen. So the credentials are depending upon the users or definitely the CSP provider. Vendor lock-in complicates moving to other CSPs. The organization discovered the cost, effort, schedule, time necessary for the move is much higher than initially considered due to the factors such as non-standard data formats, not non-standard APIs. This issue increases in service models where the CSP takes more responsibility. As an agency uses more features, services, or APIs, the exposure to our CSP's unique implementations increases. So as you are using more services, your exposure to the implementations increases. These unique implementations require changes when a capability is moved to a different CSP. If a selected CSP goes out of business, it becomes a major problem since data can be lost and cannot be transferred to another CSP in a timely manner because it is not in a very arranged format, and you are using non-standard APIs, and there is no reliance on the proprietary tools that the CSP is using because he is going to end the business that he was running. So it will definitely become a difficult thing for you to maintain your data and save it from getting lost away. Here we have the risk of increased complexity strain IT staff. Migrating to the cloud can introduce complexity into IT operations. Whenever you are migrating the cloud, it can introduce complexity into the IT operations because you are migrating your data, you need to manage it properly. The integration should be properly managed. Whenever you are making new things, you need to integrate the previous things with the new things, and then you need to monitor the operations that are being done in the cloud. It may require that the agency's existing IT staff learn a new model, IT staff must have the capacity and skill level to manage, integrate, and maintain the migration of assets and data to the cloud in addition to their current responsibility for on-premise IT. Key management and encryption services become more complex in the cloud. The services, techniques, and tools available to log and monitor cloud services typically vary across CSPs. It depends upon the CSP who is going to provide the services. The services and the techniques and the tools that the one CSP is using is not mandatory for the other CSPs to use. They may have the different tools and techniques and the technologies in their cloud services. Further, it increases the complexity. There may also be emergent threats and risks in hybrid cloud implementations due to the technology, policies, and implementation methods, which add complexity. This added complexity led to an increased potential for security gaps in an agency's cloud and on premises implementations. Insiders abuse authorized access. Insiders, such as staff and administrators for both the organization and the CSPs who abuse their authorized access to their organization or CSP's network system and data, are uniquely positioned to cause damage and exfiltrate information. The impact is most likely worse when using infrastructure as a service due to an insider's ability to provision resources or perform nefarious activities that require forensics for detection. These forensic capabilities may not be available with cloud resources. So, what we need to do is we need to manage everything properly. These impacts can have the good or bad both impacts on the system. So, everything needs to be maintained properly for the sake of detection and also for the proper management of the system. Next one is stored data is lost. Data stored in the cloud can be lost for reasons other than malicious attacks. Accidental deletion of data by the cloud service provider or physical catastrophe, such as a fire or earthquake, can lead to a permanent loss of customers' data. Burden of avoiding data loss doesn't fall solely on the provider's shoulder. If a customer encrypts its data before uploading it to the cloud but loses the encryption key, the data will definitely be lost in this case as well. In addition, inadequate understanding of a CSP's storage model may result in data loss. Agencies must consider data recovery and be prepared for the possibility of their CSP being acquired, changing service offering, or going bankrupt. This threat increases as an agency uses more CSP services. Recovering data on a CSP may be easier than recovering it at an agency because an SLA designate abilities and uptime. Percentages. These percentages should be investigated when the agency selects a CSP. The next thing is the security measures that we are going to discuss for using the cloud-based technologies. Cloud-based security is the cloud computing security is one of the biggest preservation companies have about making the change in a world where cyber attacks and data breaches are common. How can you trust your information will be safe? While you might expect it's the cloud provider responsibility to employ sufficient security measures, the responsibility prominently lies with the customer to ensure their data is secure. Here are some of the methods to keep yourself safe while using the cloud. So what are the things that you can use while making the system or your cloud services safe? First thing here is the multi-factor authentication. Adopting multi-factor authentication processes can help keep your information secure from data breaches. If you currently use cloud services in your organization, you will probably be familiar with these. Perhaps a code gets sent to your phone or you have single use passwords in place. While this may be more time consuming, it's a simple step to take against cloud security threats. Mostly people are using multi-factor authentication in their phones now. So every person who is going to connect their phones to the cloud or the devices to the cloud, they are definitely going to use multi-factor authentication as it saves their information by simply putting another wall behind the data, and definitely it will become a security factor for your data, for the security of your data from the malicious attacks, because it will be working as a wall between you and the attacker. So definitely it becomes a good thing for your data protection. Then you can use the strong passwords. Speaking of passwords, it's crucial that users have strong password in place to begin with. We recommend using a password management services. There are multiple password management services such as the LastPass to store passwords. This allows you to create complex passwords without having to remember them, as well as share them across the company securely. We also recommend changing your password regularly for maximum security because you want to make the system secure, then definitely the password should be updated regularly so that it may not become stolen. Then we have the permission sharing. Another way to assist cloud computing security is to track who you allocate permissions to as well as exactly what they can access with those permissions. Data can often be compromised through the lax sharing of credentials or not updating the system when someone leaves the company or changing roles. Companies should ensure employees do not share their account details with anyone as another essential security measure. So there are multiple security measures, and what you need to do is you need to make sure that the permission sharing is one thing that is basically related to the roles that are assigned to the employees. If the employees are having assignation of the roles and they are going to quit the organization, then definitely the system must be updated and their roles or the assigned roles should be stopped so that they may not misuse the roles and ultimately become a difficulty for the organization. Then you can ensure encryption. We recommend that any data passed between your company and the cloud is encrypted. Whenever you are going to put your data on the cloud, you must need to encrypt the data if it is really confidential, because if it is encrypted, it will save your data from your CSPs and also from the malicious attackers as well. You can do this through a virtual private network, which ensures all users benefit from a standard level of encryption. As the name suggests, the VPNs are private connections that nobody outside the network can access, especially useful for remote working. There are also several third party encryption tools out there you can use to encrypt files before uploading them, should you prefer to do that. Then you can install antivirus softwares. Sometimes cloud security isn't at fault, the system you have accessed it from. Shield yourself from hackers and malicious software by ensuring your antivirus protection is up to date on every machine. Now, if you are using a cloud-based service for an organization, the organization that is using that cloud services definitely will having multiple users of that organization who are going to connect to that particular software of the cloud-based services. So what you are going to do is every system that is going to communicate with that network or communicate or work with that software, you need to make sure that it is shielded from the malicious software. Because if there is any kind of virus in one device, it can affect the whole cloud services. This is particularly important for the remote workers. Basically, whenever people are coming from different routers, they are definitely they are going to connect it with multiple routers, and the connection between their network and the organizational network is different, and definitely multiple networks and multiple access points can become a difficult thing for the shielding of viruses. So who use hardware basically are the ones basically they are working from home, or the remote workers basically are the ones who are not coming to the office regularly. They are doing their work from their home, or basically the backup is something that will save you whenever you will lose your data in the form of physical theft or other ways like the data may become corrupted. So in these cases, you need to have a proper backup of your data that will help you to make make the things work for you. So you may also have a local backup, utilize another cloud services. So in this way, what you can do is you can have another cloud services from another CSP or from the same CSP to make a local backup or a proper backup, which will help you to back up your data in case of any emergency. Another security measure which is put it to the test. Basically, it's a security measure that will help you to ensure the cloud security. And how you can ensure it, you will test it out. If you are a large organization with highly sensitive information on the cloud, you can hire ethical hackers to assess how safe it really is. Ethical hacking is something that is yes to help others, but in good means. If it is about helping someone who wants to steal the information from another organization, this help would not be considered in ethical hacking. Ethical hacking is something which is for some good means to the nation or to the whole organization, but with good ends. Your cloud provider should also be able to offer vulnerability testing, which should be ongoing process to keep your security up to date. It will track the system or test the system for all the possible vulnerabilities or the loopholes that part of the system, and it will make the security of your system up to date. While the potential security issues in cloud computing may seem daunting, the pros far outweigh the cons. Employing strong but simple security measures and finding a trustworthy cloud provider will help to ensure your data is safe. Find out more about our cloud services online and get in touch with the team today to discuss your migration. So, this is something that is basically related to the security of your system. These are the potential security issues that we have discussed, and we may need to have proper security measures in order to find a better system which will help the organization to deal with these kind of issues.